afternoon, my friends.
Good afternoon, Carl.
It is my pleasure and my great joy to be able to come and speak with you once again. Yes, this is Carl speaking, and it is quite an exciting time for us, for we have come to let you know that things are proceeding the way they should be proceeding, and that in time, the dawn of the new age will begin, as was prophesied so many years ago, not only by me, but by the great teacher, Jesus. So we are excited at this time. Last time we talked about an image that I gave to the medium as he was going into trance, and it was quite a powerful image for you all. This time, again, he saw an image, but it was more of a personal message to him that I wish to share with you, because you need to understand this process of trance. And when he was listening to the music and feeling the energy that is coming from me as I was tuning to his energy, he started to watch a ice skating demonstration, figure skating as it's called, between two people. And he was the person that was lifted into the air by the spirit person, by me. And what this represented was the level of trust that is needed, because going into a trance state is not an actual it's a difficult thing, because it's going against every instinct within the physical body. How many of you would be willing to give up control of your body to someone else, to have them talk and speak through you and say whatever they want without your being able to censor it? Well, that is what trance is all about. So as he saw himself being lifted up into the air, it represented the fact that he has developed a good level of trust, so that we can come and speak to you and provide information to you. So we just wanted to congratulate and reassure him of this process, because there are still times where there is some doubt in his mind as to how much is spirit and how much is him. And that is a natural thing for trance mediums. But he has received confirmation within the past few months that he understands that it is much more spirit than him. So we wish to share all that information with you before we started the question and answer period. May I have the first question, please?
Yes, the first question is from Kirsten. She references the last Q&A session that we had with Spirit, and Spirit came through and said that for a person to help another person combat the effects of the virus or the jab, that person would need to be 1,000% sure. How do you measure that? Can someone do that for others, or what else could interfere? What information would you have for someone who went through a situation where they put so much into a manifestation for someone or something, but it failed, and not seemingly because of the loss, but as a consequence, they feel as if they have soul loss or loss of spiritual energy, and do not feel that they could manifest 1,000% because it may take too much energy, potentially also endangering their life, they feel, because their energy would become negative, and this despite other healthy habits they tried to keep.
The question that you asked is really multifaceted, and yet it shows there is a bit of a misunderstanding. So therefore, I will just start and teach you what you need to know. When you are manifesting something, you cannot be wishy-washy. You cannot sit back and say, I want this to happen. I wish this to happen. Oh God, bring this into my life. You can do that, but are you putting any energy into it? No. What you need to do is to bring your focus on what you wish to manifest. You need to visualize it, to see it happening as if it already happened. You need to do this with all of your might, and might is a bad word because that is where the confusion's coming in. It is not talking about 1,000% of energy. It is talking about 1,000% of focus, of doing it without the slightest sliver of doubt that it might not happen. You know it's going to happen because you are a God and you are a creator and you are creating this. There's no question. There is no doubt. There is no negative energy. You have to approach it from that way. Because if you have the negative energy, it's not going to happen. If you have the questioning energy, it's not going to happen. So it's not a question of how much energetically it is. It's a question of pure focus and knowing that it's going to happen without a shadow of doubt. That is what we are talking about. That is what was meant. It's not that you have to be a dynamo of energy and put in 60,000 million watts to make it happen. No, it's not a matter of energy. It's a matter of thought. It is a matter of focus. It's a matter of knowing, of absolute knowingness that what you are working on will manifest. Will it happen immediately? No. Will it happen in a week? Perhaps. Will it take a month or a month and a half? Perhaps. You have to understand that the process of manifestation is going from your world, which is it's caught up in a time flow, into the spirit world where there is no time flow, and then has to come back down to the physical world. When that happens, you have lost some time, or some time has taken place. I should say that more correctly. So therefore, it isn't immediate. And it isn't something that we can measure and say in an hour and a half it's going to happen. We can't tell you that. We can't tell you when it will happen, but it will happen provided you give it enough strength of positivity, not energy, of positivity. Knowing that you are a God, knowing gods can create whatever they want into their life, and knowing that it will happen. I will use an example that I feel my medium will not be too uncomfortable with. He had a medical issue about a year and a half ago, and he did not allow anything, once he made his decision on how to proceed, he did not allow anything to change his attitude that he would come out of this without any problems. He was extremely focused on a positive outcome. And a positive outcome was manifested. After the procedure was done, he did not even require a pain pill, which surprised the nursing staff that was involved. This is what we are talking about. He did not plug himself into a dynamo of energy. He was just knew within himself, within his soul, and projected that throughout his being that he would have a very positive outcome. And he did. So I hope that addresses all the questions that were asked and explains it in a way that the person will understand how to approach manifestation.
Thank you. The next question is from Carol Barna. I have a question about the future of China. The Chinese Communist Party has curtailed many human rights and is aggressive toward nearby countries to assert their dominance. The Hong Kong demonstrators have been put in prison. What is the future for this country? Will they be the dominant power in the world?
My friend, the answer that you are seeking is both yes and no. For a time, the negative energy that they are creating through their the focus on domination, through their focus on control of other beings, it is going to succeed for a while. But what you need to remember is that the frequency of the whole planet is going higher. It is raising. And therefore, as it gets higher and higher, you will find that more and more positivity comes into the world. And there will become a time where the forces of good will overpower their negativity and their whole system will collapse. Now, we cannot give you a time and a date when that will happen, but it will happen. And part of what they're doing right now is creating their own demise because this negative energy cannot be continued to go into the new age of knowledge. That negative energy will not exist in that time. So, therefore, they are working on their own doom. They are working on their own collapse. And eventually, they will come to realize the mistakes of their of this attitude that they are projecting. Unfortunately, many people will suffer um, the repercussions and the actions of these people. They will not. It is not a pleasant thing. However, you also have to remember that these people who are being dominated agreed to that before they came into their earthly life. They understood that they needed to experience this in order to have more of an understanding within their own souls, for whatever reason that was, to experience this and own this experience into their soul, into their knowledge base. So while it is unfortunate that they do experience this, in a sense, they volunteered for it when they came to the earth plane. And they are going to they're going to reap the rewards of these experiences on the grand scale of things. So we always have to remember that the people who go through these sufferings, it is not an accident, it is not a coincidence. It was chosen by them for a learning experience to advance their souls. Do you understand?
Thank you. The next question is from Peggy. In the future, will the U.S. government withhold Social Security checks from those who refuse to comply with vaccination mandates?
Again, we are talking about control of people, and it is a idea that is slow to die and slow to go away, but it eventually will. There are many things that are potentially can happen, such as the one that you suggested. There are many ideas that are being floated around by the people who are not in the light, who wish to continue their power and their control over the masses of people. They are coming up with many different ideas. However, what they do not realize, or what they're trying to ignore, might be a better way of saying it because they have some idea of what's happening. They know that there are people on within the forces of light that are combating this issue, that is combating their control. And again, this power struggle between the light and the dark is something that is going to happen and is already happening. Where who it's a tug of war. And we cannot at this point tell you specifically if one act is going to happen or one act isn't, because everything is in a state of flux. What we ask you to do is to live in the light. What we ask you to do is to project as much light as you can into the world, to be an example to other people of what living a spiritual life is like. You are the soldiers that are needed in order to establish this new age. So therefore, we ask you in all your endeavors to approach it from a spiritual aspect. We are in hope that with with the more with the increasing empowerment of the light, these dark forces can be defeated and stopped before they can bring forth such things as you asked about. But we cannot guarantee that 100% because, as I said, it is a tug of war. And at one moment, one side is winning, and at one point, another side is winning. You understand what a tug of war is like. And so at some point, there's a bit of fatigue, and so the other side begins to win, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth. The more people that come to the light, the stronger that side will become. And that will be happening. There will become a point where people will no longer tolerate these oppressive ideas that are being floated about and will put a stop to it. But again, it depends on how long it takes for the light force to build to that point where it can no longer be stopped.
Thank you. The next question is from Joan. What percentage of good extraterrestrials are doing the cleanup in the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases, rescuing children? Are they doing most of that work for us? If not, then how do we manage to have that much manpower? Thank you.
What you are asking about is an interesting concept, for it is the aliens, as you are talking about, which is helping to fuel the light workers, the people who are working to combat the darkness. There are much There are many things that are happening in the invisible world that cannot be seen by humankind unless they are clairvoyant to help in this situation. And most of this help is coming from life forms that are from other planets, as well as the life forms that are in the spirit world. They are inspiring and empowering humans to do what is needed to do. They are guiding them and enforcing them. They are doing this more on an energetic level than actually physically manifesting themselves and doing it themselves. It is much more effective if human beings are doing it. But the humans need encouragement. They need a source of power, of energy, and these people who are invisible to most people's eyes are providing that. They are providing the inspiration for the people who are working through organizations to help clean up what you are talking about. So therefore, it is more happening on a human level. But if the alien energy was not there, it would barely happen at all. It is the fuel that is inspiring the people to work. It is the energy that keeps them going when they get depressed and upset. You have to understand the things that they are witnessing as extremely disturbing and extremely distraught, making them very distraught. It is these forces that are continually igniting fire in them, a fire of light, a fire of love within them to combat that negative energy, to combat that depression and that horror that they are seeing. And so it would not happen without them, without their participation.
Thank you for that answer, and we thank those beings who are helping us. The next question is from Fenton. When beings of advanced alien civilizations die or are killed, what level of dimensional vibration do they go to, and do they have spirit guides, guardian angels, etc.? Also, do they reincarnate? Thank you.
My friend, you need to understand that most of the beings that you are speaking of, many of them had lives in the physical world, and they learned how to ascend, take their body with them, and that allowed them to go into these other dimensions that you are discussing. Once you have that knowledge, there is no longer any need to die. They just, if they get tired of the form they're in, they change their location and change their form, and they're in their new location in a new body. They don't need to die. They don't need to go through all that. All they do is reorganize the physicality that they have taken with them. The cells of your body are very much like building blocks, and they are created and put together through an organization. You are used to the human organization, but once a person learns how to ascend and speeds up the physical body to a point it goes into light, and it leaves the physical dimensions and the physical frequencies, it enters into other vibrations, and therefore they take that physical matter and they reorganize it into whatever body they need for that particular situation or whatever they are. So they can be, they can look like whatever they want to or whatever they need to in that new location. You do understand that many of these other frequencies and planets have bodies that look very different than the human body, and therefore they just reorganize it and they keep it going. And when they get bored with that, they go to someplace else that they have earned through the knowledge that they have gained from being able to ascend, and therefore that is what they want they can do. Now, if someone chose to well, I won't use the word reincarnate, because reincarnate means it would go into another body. They can bring their body back into the earth plane and be seen as human form again, because they have the capability of forming that human body again, walking and talking and teaching and whatever else they wish to do at that point. So they have yes, they can come back to the physical world if they wish to, but many of them don't want to be in the chaos that's down here and rather be in the more peaceful and advanced civilizations that exist on other planets.
Thank you. The next question is from Luvera. I've always been fascinated with life on other planets and have often wondered if they share some of our lifestyle activities, such as working, attending school, going to concerts, shopping, restaurants, and so forth, and what form of currency is used for making purchases.
My friend, the question you asked is very interesting to us. Life in other dimensions is drastically different than Earth life. The time that they have, and I'm sorry, but the word time is incorrect because they are in timeless dimensions. So they engage in activities that they choose to engage in. Some of them act as guides for people on the physical world because that is what they have chosen to do, even though they're in another dimension. Just as we spoke before, some of these people are inspiring the light work that is happening in the caves and things. So some of them are still engaged with the physical world, with your earth world, because they have a strong desire to help human beings become more spiritual and to finally step out of the ignorance and into the light. Others spend their time in other ways. It has been taught to the members of this particular group over the years that human beings do not create very much. They do not come up with new inventions very often. And when they do, it is coming from the world of spirit. It is the spirit people who give these scientists the advances, these inventors, their inventions, the inspiration that happens for them to create something new. It is not usually created from the human mind, but from the mind from people in other dimensions. The other dimensions who have lived in harmony for so long are so far advanced from Earth life. And some of the people there wish to bring these advances to the Earth plane. And therefore, they work with people who are open enough to receive this inspiration. Your greatest inventors like Edison and Tesla all received information from other dimensions, which led to their inventions. And this is what some of the people wish to do. Some of the people in the other dimensions that you're talking about, yes, they do like to, how do I say, enjoy themselves, as you were saying. But there is no need for them to have any kind of currency. Whatever they need, they are advanced enough to materialize. There are no shopping malls in heaven. There is no more money in heaven. And by heaven, I'm including extraterrestrial dimensions. They have learned how to manifest. And therefore, if they wish to have something, all they do is think it and it appears. Because they have mastered that. They are masters of that. It is what we were talking about before with the other question of how to manifest. They are masters of it. They have their doctorate degrees in that. They can do it very simply. So there's no need for money, and they can just create whatever reality they wish to be in for a while. But most of them do spend time trying to advance thinking, to trying to advance technology, trying to bring that to the Earth plane and to other planes that are also not quite as advanced as some others. So that is what they spend their time doing.
Thank you. Next question is from Carol C. The volcano on La Palma, one of the Canary Islands, has been erupting. There are prophecies that say a huge section of the mountain will slide into the sea and cause a tsunami that will devastate the east coast of the United States. Is this on our timeline? timeline, or will those who have raised their frequencies slip over to an alternate reality where it does not exist?
The answer to your question is that yes, it is on the timeline. It has been seen to to happen. It has been prophesied for quite some time. There are many people who have had prophecies about the tidal waves that you are talking about, and also the rising seas that will change the coastlines of the continents. This can happen, and it is on schedule to happen. However, the people that you are speaking about, the people who are more aware of this, can, as you say, alter their reality and not be present when it happens, and therefore come back to a place that's still safe. Or they will be inspired to go into a safer location. If any of you ever have the sudden inclination to get into your vehicle and to drive away from the coastlines, do it. Do not question it, for it is your spirit people who are inspiring you to remain safe. And therefore, this is always a possibility for those of you who live in the coastlines, near where water is. If possible for some of you, you could relocate to higher elevation or into other locations if that is possible. But it is something that has been seen. Now, as with everything that we've talked about, just because it's been prophesied for a long time doesn't necessarily mean it absolutely 100% is going to happen, because everything is in a state of flux. This whole battle between light and dark is in a state of flux. So we cannot say for 100% sure that yes, this is going to happen, but the probability is that it probably will. It probably will, unless there is a sudden influence on building of the positive energy to cause a shift in many things, including in Mother Earth. Mother Earth has suffered greatly from this ignorance that has been on your planet, for the Mother Earth has been abused and has been its resources have been extracted on to a greater extent than they should have been or could have been, and therefore it's part of the healing process for the earth, is some of the things that you are talking about. So it's hopefully, if there's a shift, earth can heal itself without that drastic action having to occur.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up question. Um, if it does occur and there's a tsunami hitting the East Coast, can you give us some idea of how far inland would be safe areas?
We would say that somewhere between 15 and 20 miles from the coastline would probably be a safe. You have to realize the tsunami is a very tall wall of water, and therefore, when it spills over, it splashes over the earth. It drags everything with it, and so it is difficult to know exactly where it is, but we feel within the 15 to 25 miles would probably be all right. It also depends on the elevation of the land at that point, too.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question from Laura. Is there one Bible edition that is more accurate than other editions? And if so, which one is it? Thank you.
When it comes to that book that you are talking about, you have to understand that accuracy is not an issue, because when that book was written, it was written by what you may term today as spin doctors. They did not sit down to report what happened in factual, actual terms. They wrote it down the way they wanted to write it down for their own agenda. So, from the very beginning, there are many misconceptions and inaccuracies in the original written word, let alone with being translated 1,000 times over in different languages and in different by different people who constantly are making changes in the wording of the propaganda that was written into that book. So therefore, there is nothing called accuracy. What you will find if you did comparisons between many different versions is that Bible A will make mistakes in spot A and B, and Bible B will make mistakes in C and D, and Bible C will make mistakes in X and Y. And there is no accurate Bible. There's mistakes in all of them. There's not one that's better than the other. That being said, there are many Bibles that are written in archaic languages that use thou and they and thine and all that stuff. And for the modern reader, it is better to use a Bible that uses modern words as opposed to all that archaic language. That does make it easier. There are versions that are easier to read than others, but that doesn't mean that accuracy is there. What is being uncovered and discovered and researched by this particular medium is the fact that the Bible was written by people who were propagandists and who were not writing what was truly happening, but what they were writing for in order to present a certain picture in people's minds to control their minds, so that they would continue to come and worship in their particular church or synagogue or group, and therefore bring their donations to that particular group so that the priests of that particular group could live off that money. It makes no difference whether what religion we're talking about, is all the same thing between all the different ones. So the book itself, while it does have information that is valuable for people who understand mediumship, because the mediumship that is described there is accurate. However, what is missing is that all these prophets say they heard the voice of the Lord. Well, who was the Lord? That's the issue. And the issue is the Lord was one spirit control for one prophet, another spirit control for another prophet, a third one for a third one. It wasn't the same spirit who was speaking through all these people. It wasn't a grand Lord that was created. It was the spirit people who were speaking, and each one had their own prophet and that they worked with. Just as if you go back into the history of this organization, the medium who was talking to you before, the one who's in spirit, his spirit control was a Tuscarora Indian by the name of Lone Eagle. That was his quote God. That was who worked through him. If you talk to the medium who is speaking now, the Tuscarora Indian isn't his spirit control. It isn't his God. It is someone else. And that is what happened in biblical times, because the laws of psychic science have never changed. They are always present, and they are there. They can't be changed. But the way things were written were very deceptive to people in order to make them follow the rules of that particular religion and to be under the control of the of the priesthood of that particular religion.
Thank you. One more question from Rivera. When will there be an end to gun violence?
The answer to that question is very simple. When people realize that when they lift the gun and they aim it at someone, that they are aiming it at a divine being who has a soul just like they do, who is exactly like they are, who are their equals. When they come to that realization in their hearts, they will no longer be able to raise that gun. So, in the age of knowledge, guns will not be used to hurt people. Guns will probably not be used at all, because even going forth and killing an animal for hunting or for food or for whatever may not exist at that point, because people will understand that those beings, those animals, are also divine beings. They also carry divine energy to a certain extent. Yes, it's a bit different than what is in a human, but it is still divine, and therefore there will come a day when all of that will cease. Can I tell you when that will happen? Unfortunately, no. Going back to the time of Jesus, they asked him when he was coming, meaning when the new age would come, when the age of knowledge would come, and he said he could not give a day or an hour or a specific date, and neither can we. But know that it will happen, and it will happen because people will realize that we are all equal. No matter what we look like, no matter what our skin color is, no matter what gender we are, we're coming to a time where people will realize that and will start to honor other people as they honor themselves. It will happen. It is destined to happen. We can not just point to a calendar and say this is the date it will happen.
Thank you. And that appears to be our last question. I want to thank Carl and everyone who came through to help us tonight. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
It is our pleasure to be able to provide the information that you are seeking, because in this time of flux, it is even of more importance for us to be able to have a channel and a vehicle to provide information that you are seeking. We are here to help you. Remember that always. And all you have to do is to request our help, to quiet your mind and allow us to influence it. You do not have to be a medium. You do not have to be clairvoyant. You do not have to be clairaudient for you to have a sudden thought of inspiration come into your mind. Follow that, because it is coming from us. It may be, as we said, to take you to another location. It may be just that you should go down the path to the right instead of the one to the left. When that thought of inspiration comes in, when that thought is there, and you need to be aware that that thought did not generate from your brain. That is the key. When you have a thought and said, I wasn't thinking about that. I wonder why that popped in my head. And depending what the information is, it'd be wise to follow it, because it is coming from our dimension, and we are there. We try to guide your footsteps so that you will not stumble in pitfalls. We try to inspire you to the safest path and the safest route that we can. But you have to be open to it. You have to be cognizant and aware of your thought processes, and be aware of when a thought suddenly pops in, and it's just that it pops in. It didn't originate from your own mind and your own consciousness. Be very observant of those thoughts. Think about them, and if it at all makes sense, follow it, for it is our way to guide you. Again, it is our pleasure to serve you at this time with information, and we are more than delighted to do this. So, with that, we are about to leave, and we leave you with our blessings. And remember, we are just a thought away. If you put a thought out from us, go into a receptive mode so you can receive an answer. Because if you turn on the television right afterwards and busy your mind with something else, you will not hear what we have to say, and you will not be inspired by us. Ask the question, go into a receptive mode. And it doesn't have to be deep meditation. You just need to quiet your mind and listen to that still small voice within, as the Bible talked about, for that is this voice of spirit, and it is the voice that is there to guide you. And with these words, we will leave. Our blessings to you, my friends, our deepest blessings to you. So be it.